Hey, everybody, welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. It's James, and today I have a good friend of mine. This guy is amazing. He's performed all over the country. He just got back from doing Jimmy Kimmel's Club in Vegas. He has done the original room in the Comedy Store. I haven't got to that. I've done the Belly Room, but not the original room or even the main room. And he's open for some of the biggest names in the country, including Darrell Hammond, Shang, Darren Carter, uh, Heather Pasternack, Vargus Mason, and Jimmy Shin. So please give it up for my friend Jason Schuster. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Hey, JD, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, dude, I'm super excited. What's funny is we probably could have done this in person. He lives like down the street from me, so this like we literally could have done this, but I know that you're a busy guy.
I was like, why didn't I just walk to your walk
Yeah.
down?
so so just to get started, just in case people don't know who you are, they haven't seen you, they don't know your background. Kind of give us a short background of who you are and how you got into comedy, how you got into this crazy business.
Ah, man, yeah, you have a whole day. No, so, uh, yeah. So I'm a stand-up comedian, but I'm also an impressionist, and I build, I incorporate a lot of my impressions into my stand-up. So I'll take relatable topics and then kind of cross cross in and weave in and out those impressions with those topics. So that's kind of my shtick. I do a lot of political impressions, but I do a lot of celebrities as well. I got into comedy because I felt that this what I always wanted to do since I was a kid. I was somebody who loved characters, and I would watch SNL constantly, and I would try to act those characters out at home, and really try to pick up those voices. And I would do a lot of impressions. But then growing up, I grew up in a Jewish family, and I would often imitate the rabbi and the cantor of my synagogue for my family. And my family loved it and cracked up, but I would just do it for them. Well, my aunt tells me one day, I've been telling the cantor at the synagogue that
No,
you can
no.
you can do an impersonation of him, and he's this big burly Israeli guy. And I was like, oh my God. So I would start seeing him and be like, he wouldn't directly tell me to impersonate it, but he'd be like, hi, hi, and I'm like, hey, what? But one day I was at the gas station pumping gas, and I'll never forget this. Um, Pumping gas, and I see him pull into the parking lot, and I'm like, "Oh, Cantor Albrecht, how are you?" He's like, "Jason, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good." He's like, "Do me, do me." I'm like, "Bubbly bum, do me." I'm like, "Do you right here at the gas station? Come on!" And he's like, "Hey, come on, let's see it, let's see it." And I did an impersonation of him, the whole thing. But that was kind of how it got word got around. Hey, Jason can do impersonations of the cantor and the rabbi, but you should hear him do other impressions. And as I grew up, I always wanted to be an actor too. But later on in my life, I moved to LA. I got here around when I was in my around 29, 30 years old, and I did the Groundlings for a while, and I also trained with some really great um, teachers, improv teachers, beyond the Groundlings. Secured an agent early on. Then kind of just life kind of took over, took a little break, and then from there, several years into my 30s, I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm going all into this, and then really in the past couple of years is really when things really started to go in a great direction for me. So I'm just very blessed for that.
Yeah, it's you're blowing up. You're all over the place. Besides the where like rabbi and whatever, like who's your first like celebrity impersonation? Because I think most people are like I can do Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the one that everyone knows, right? Like that's the first one, right? California. Like those are the ones everyone gets first.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I could always do like I would do watch like the cartoons. So I would watch Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. And I would do stuff like that, like just watching the Disney cartoons. But um, also, Doctor Evil was a really famous one of mine,
Oh
believe it
yeah,
or
that's
not.
right.
So people would come up to me and always ask me to do Doctor Evil, and I was always embarrassed a little bit. And then like, come on, so and then, hello, I'm the boss. Need the info. Throw me a freaking bone here. Don't embarrass me in public. get the laser.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sharks with the freaking lasers on their head, man.
Yeah. Frau Forbison, the founder of the militant group of the Salvation Army. I'm the boss. Need info. But yeah, so that was a good, and then I mean, I would always love watching Adam Sandler, and I would do a lot of it, Adam Sandler impressions.
Hello, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's a very good. Yeah. But glad to be here on the Clean Climate.
I always wanted to do like impersonations, but I was always told like don't do that. Like when I started stand up, people would say don't do impersonations. That's like so 80s and 90s. No one does it anymore or whatever. But I like the big thing that I saw happen with impersonations, like if you could do Trump, if you hello, it's me, Donald Trump. I really like to come over to visit you in China. I want to see how it goes. Like if people could do, if you could do Trump, that blew up. Like people were getting, there were like guys that were like getting paid thousands of dollars to do Trump impersonations and show up dressed like Trump.
Yeah, Trump definitely helped me over, the past couple of years. Frankly, it's a big deal. I have to tell you on the Clean Comedy Podcast, it's a big deal. China.
That's good. Let's see. I'm looking at your thing. Gilbert Gottfried, that's a great one because that's a hard one to do. Like even when I would, because I used to watch USA Up All Night with him and Rhonda Shear. That's how I like got in to like watch like terrible, crazy movies that you probably shouldn't be watching at like 10 through 13 years old. But do you do Gilbert Gottfried? Did you do Gilbert Gottfried based on like Iago version of Godfrey or like real Gilbert Gottfried?
Well, I mean, this is the Clean Comedy Podcast.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, but like, some people I could do Patrick Warburton, but I have to start out with like squeak squeaker, squeak squeakum. It's me, Patrick Burton.
Yeah. I can actually just go right into full blown Gilbert Gottfried, and I don't know how it happens, but suddenly I'm talking like this. I'm sitting here having a great time, and now I'm on a podcast with J.D. Cravinston. I don't even know where I am. Joan Rivers just did a set up in heaven, and I had diarrhea. So,
bravo. What's the one that took you, like, what's the impression that took you the longest to master, or the one that you're still working on, the one that, like, you want to do, but you've never been able to kind of get over the hump? Because there's always something that everybody wants to do, but they just can't do it,
Yeah. I've been trying to do Biden, man, for like it's such a tough one to do because he's just an old man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the keys in the car and the job, yeah. But Dana Carvey does really well.
Yeah, Dana Carvey does a great, But he also Dana Carvey nailed George Bush, like easily.
So funny enough, George Bush was also one of my claim to fame. That's how. So because how are you? It's good to see you. We're having a great time here at the Clean Comedy Podcast. Sometimes a little nervous, excited, get a little poopy in the pants. Laura, the economy is doing great because I'm not the president anymore.
That's funny. No, now when you do your sets and you work in impressions, in what way are you working them in? Are you working them in as the character or like as part of a story? Because that's kind of interesting. Like there was a time in like 80s and 90s where people would do whole sets as a character, right? They would do like a whole thing like as that character or whatever. Like, hello, I'm here and I'm working in this out today. You see me, I'm on stage telling these jokes to you. Like, they would do the whole set like as a character. Obviously, you could tell Schwarzenegger is my easiest one. But I grew up like doing Pee Wee Herman when I was a kid. Schwarzenegger, just as much whatever I could do. But I was told it's a big faux pas now in stand up. So I never ever worked any of them into my sets ever. So it's just very interesting that
it's a dying art form in a lot of ways. It's also something that I really enjoy because there's not many of us who still do it, impressions, and people love them. And so something I've been really working on is, maybe I will do some sets going forward, I'll just be doing all impressions and interweaving it. But I really, I view myself as a stand-up comedian first and impressionist second. So, yeah. And so I really do my best to kind of make them all work together.
Right. Now, would you say that but when you're doing it, are you adding it as are you doing that character for a whole bit, or are you just doing like working it in like to play back and forth, or like even a conversation? Do you ever do conversations back and forth between different characters and stuff?
I do. I had this low testosterone set that I do, and at the end of it, I'll do a conversation about imagine three presidents talking about having low testosterone, and I'll do it between Bush, Clinton, and Donald Trump.
Wow. What
So that
can we get a sample of that, or is that like too much? Am I asking you for too much?
oh no, it'd be like I can no longer have sexual relations with my wife, Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, frankly, Bill, nobody thought you ever did. Hate to tell you, China. And then George Bush is like, "How are you? Can't believe I'm actually in this conversation right now. But in case anybody wants to know, I'm actually doing comedy. I'll be at the stand-up club next week." So
That's awesome. Now you've grown. I see that your Instagram is just like blowing up and stuff or whatever. What's like? Do you have like a secret? Not a secret, but like, what was your kind of process of like growing that? Because I see a lot of comedians and even me struggle with growing their following on online, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, all that stuff. Is there like something that you realized or that you recognized or that you saw that worked for you? Uh, I'm not asking you to give away your secret sauce. I'm just saying, like, do you know, like, is there something that like comedians, if they're listening, would go, oh, if I just did one or two things, I could grow, 50 followers, 100 followers, whatever. I'm not saying thousands, tens of thousands, but
yeah, it's funny. Like we're all us as comedians, we're so hard on ourselves. I appreciate that compliment, but to me, it's like, oh, I could do so much better. I can. This. It doesn't seem like that to me. But like I really, if that's your perception, I really do appreciate that. But that's really kind of you. But
dude,
uh,
18,000 followers, you guys. There's no way that he can be humble. I'm not gonna let you be humble here. Like, you can be humble on your own, but I'm just gonna show you guys 18,000. Right. And for context, just so everybody can see, if you're watching, if you're not watching, if you're just listening, we'll go to mine. 449 followers. So you can tell you that I'm not, and look, I'm following way more people than are following me. I'm terrible at social media, FYI. So there you go. Good.
well,
I
man,
just want you to be able to. I'm gonna brag on you, so that's why. So I'm gonna brag on you. Go ahead.
yeah, well now now you put me on the there, but no, consistency for me has been the key. Reels have been the key. Just trying to time the metrics, getting it out there. I'm a huge networker. I'm out all the time. Always staying after shows and talking to people. I'm always making sure I have people following me after the show
Oh,
that I do. I have a QR code that I have used so people can scan it, and it just pops up in my Jason Shoe Comedy Instagram will pop up, and then they can just go check it out right there too. It's a nice way to get people can see it instantly, so I don't have to actually type it in. I also used to run a digital marketing agency
oh, that
back in the day, which my brother still runs, and works with great brands, and he's actually he actually has their firm does the marketing for my podcast too. So that's really helpful. But yeah, man, I wish I could tell you like I have some secret like sauce to all of it, but just a lot of work has gone into that account and building it up and really finding out what's working, what's not, and a lot of collabs too. Collaborations really help, a ton to get growth and partnering other comics. Even on my podcast, when we do the podcast, we always try to collab with the other comics on them. So because collaborations get you way more reach than you could ever imagine, and we're all growing together. So
right.
yeah, and there's not enough of that in our industry of looking out for each other and growing together, because that's really what game is all about. We all want to have success, but if we support each other just a little bit more, there could be way more traction for so many comics. Yeah.
That's true, because too many comedians get in this mindset of like, there's only enough stage time, there's only enough time, there's only enough places, and so if I give you a tip or I help you out, then that means it takes away from my stand-up career or my time on stage or my bookings or my shows or my whatever. And we have this, not all of us, but there's a very, I see it, and especially in LA, it's very much of like, at least in the middle tier level of comedians coming up, kind of like open mic openers, kind of semi almost features. But once you get above that, I see a lot of, like, I know a lot of headliners who go, nah, dude, like, I let me see if I can help you. Let me see if I can do this or do that for you. Like,
which is amazing. And and that happens often. It's often the guys that are the kindest guys a lot are female and male comics people are or those who are the ones who are headlining and touring across the country all the time, and they're always more than willing to help because they've been there, they get it, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
as long as they see some potential in you and they see
yeah,
your work ethic and that you're going to show up. And the biggest thing to also is like just be kind to your peers. We have this ambition to make people laugh for a living, right? And and so that's a burning desire that we have every single day. That's what drives us. So and it's a very competitive industry, of course, but kindness goes a long way. And if other comics see that, that person is easy to work with, there's no ego, like I always think like, can that person, when I go on the road with somebody, I think like um before that happens, I always think, could I go on a 10-hour road trip with that person and it would be totally chill.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I think I'm like, I maybe I'll ask Darren, but I feel like I'm the easiest person to travel with just because I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, let's
Yeah.
as long as we get there and like,
Yeah.
whatever. And then if stuff happens, let's figure it out and keep moving forward. Like, who cares? With people in Texas or whatever, it's like, I don't think there's I don't think there is any issue with that. But
No,
yeah,
man. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you are super easy to work with, man. And I've done your show before, and you ran it really well, and it was a pleasure to be honest with you. So
yeah. Because here's the thing: like most comedians were not like when people are coming up, they're only thinking about themselves. But right as and I realized as I was coming up, I got a lot of big opportunities that I shouldn't have gotten at that time point in time, but I was grateful for it. And I learned in those moments, okay, if you get an opportunity to give someone else a chance or a show or whatever, treat them how you want to be treated, which means pay them, give them a good amount of time, and make sure that you help them promote and make sure that you try to give them the best place and opportunity possible, right?
that's
Too
right.
many comedians don't do that. Like I do a lot of shows around LA. I only get paid for like, I don't know, 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 or something like that. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
LA is not gonna LA is gonna give you visibility. LA majority of the time is not gonna pay you,
no,
but the road will. And for every if you really want to be successful in this industry, your ambition, unless you have some ambition that you're going to be on a sitcom and all that, but if you want to be a comic that is making money and treating it like a real business, you should have ambitions to be on the road.
yeah. Now, what would you say to a new comedian or a comedian? Let's say a comedian who like it wants to go on the road. They're an LA based comic. They want to go on the road. What would be your piece of advice to tell them to get on the road? Right? Like, what would be the thing that they need to be doing, or kind of the order or steps they should go to kind of make sure that they're road ready, that they're road worthy?
Establishing great relationships, but also getting to know some of the headliners and letting them come see you, asking them to come see you, because you'd be surprised that they will come check you out, or go to their shows and go support them, um, and then build a relationships with them, and then they might even ask you to send them some tape, um, and then but look at the value. You also got to look at what value can I add to help this either a feature or a headliner on going on the road. What's the value that I can bring? And how can I stand out amongst, because you don't want to have the same kind of comedy all the way through, right? So would I fit on this bill? And then think about, like, should I then reach out to that comic? But takes time to build those relationships, and relationships in comedy, good ones are your key, because when the opportunity arises, you got to jump on it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, for me, it's all about just developing, key relationships, and obviously they have to respect you as a comedian and enjoy your set, so for me, my niche is impression. So, that's always something different that comes with me going on the road and doing shows, and proving, that to the audience that, oh, I would check that guy out again. I would have, I always think when you perform too, the audience members should think that guy, that person's pretty cool. I like to I would probably have a beer with that person after the show. So.
Right. No, that's a good point. I always think of that too. When I think, or I remember my first, like one of my first like live stand up shows of going to the Improv in LA, seeing like Zach Galifianakis and like a bunch of different comedians perform, and think, oh, it'd be awesome to hang out with them afterwards. And I forgot who I went. I wish I could remember, but I went and talked to a comedian after the show who was standing outside smoking, and I talked to them about comedy or whatever, and they like were like, I was like, that'd be all. I would love to do that. They're like, go try, man. Like, which, but it was a long gap between that conversation and actually trying stand up. So,
Yeah, yeah. And it's scary too, because like if you're like thinking of like, oh my God, how is that going to happen? And how am I going to go on the road? I don't have a lot of money. Maybe you have a friend in that, because if you're going to open or maybe feature, not all the like the headliner is probably going to get a hotel room,
right.
but like if think like who do I know in that city that could like I could stay for the night, whatever you got to do just to find a place, and because eventually it's gonna like, you do that enough, eventually you're gonna start featuring and all that. So
I
you
could
can
see,
also book your own too. You can
I
also
could,
go out and book yourself.
yeah. Well, I could sleep in my Tesla and fold down, so I wouldn't have to worry about a hotel.
There you go. You're set.
If it really came to it, I could just sleep in that bad boy as long as I have
Yeah.
the budget. So there you go.
Camp out in the Tesla, man.
There you go. It's easy. All right. Well,
I would have anxiety driving a Tesla on the road though, because what if you're in the middle of like Oklahoma or something like that? As their charging stations?
no, there's charging stations all over. I mean, sorry, you guys, but I rented one for my 40th birthday in Texas where they have very few chargers, or at least at the time they did. Now it's been a couple years, but it was fine. I did have a little anxiety because I didn't know enough, but now with mine, like I don't worry about it. Like I can get anywhere I need to go. So
There you go.
you said
I digress. Been proven wrong.
it's just a little more preparation than like maybe a gas car, right?
Right.
Because you have to know where you're going to stop at. But like you can go from here to Vegas pretty easily, because there's that as you're going to Vegas through not through Bakersfield, like through like Barstow and Yermo and all that stuff. There's that one little like candy shop place, and they have a bunch of superchargers there. So you can make it to there pretty easily, and then from there you can just make it to Vegas. And in Vegas, there's like a bunch of supercharger stations. So that's one that's easy to do. Bakersfield, I've done it. Like you can up north, like you can go anywhere. It's not that tough
So
anymore.
that there's a pro tip right there. You want to travel on the road? Take your Tesla.
Well, I mean, the Model Y you can sleep in the back. I heard the Model 3 you can too, but it doesn't look very very roomy to me. But the
No.
Model Y is like very roomy. If you fold down the seats, you could sleep in the back there, no problem. So it's not that big of a deal. So hey, comedians have slept in their cars for decades. You know what I'm saying? So
We are a rare breed. We'll sleep wherever we can, find somewhere that's at least semi comfortable
yeah,
to sleep on. And if there's as long as it's in close proximity to the club, then we'll take it.
even better, even better. So now, as you've gone through, how long have you been doing stand up? Like, how many years would you say you've been doing stand up?
Well, on and off, probably like 6 years, but all in, as I've really has been the past two.
Wow,
Yeah.
that much growth in 2 years? That like all that? Wow, holy cow!
Yeah,
Dude,
I mean, but I was doing, I did a lot of
bro.
improv and the groundlings and all that stuff, before.
Groundlings isn't around in LA anymore, correct? Right? It's gone.
No, it's around.
Oh, it is okay. Because I know one of them. Oh, was it IO West? IO West and something else closed in LA or whatever and stuff. So.
Yeah, yeah. I would for me, like I was always dabbling with stand up, and so sporadically, I say over 6 years, but like to put everything I got into all my heart and soul, yeah, past 2, 3 years, yeah. So
Now, what does a typical day look like for you? So you're saying put in your heart and soul. Are you doing like 40 hours a week of work on this? Like, what does it kind of look like for you to go all in on that? Like, do you have another day job? Do you have something else that you're doing? What's sustaining you? Which is kind of like give us kind of like what that looks like, what going all in is for you, because that's
oh
interesting.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I do have I sell real estate to have extra income coming in. Um, because in comedy, you cannot just rely on being a comic unless you're really in the top 1%. And So I do real estate, and but I was doing like 5 shows a week. You know, um, I have been getting on the road a little bit more, and so my days, like, typically, it's kind of all over the place. I also have a podcast that we shoot, and we shoot it at a studio in Burbank. So when I'm not, like, writing and I'm not, preparing for a show, I might be booking guests for the podcast and lining that up and setting it up with the studio. Um, but I'm constantly just evolving. Or, there might be times where I just stay and I focus on listening to new impressions that I want to do. That's a big part of it. And I also have a writers group where we get together. It's on a hiatus right now, but for the most part, we get together and we write. We bring up our premises and we hash it out, and we figure out the jokes together. It's really helpful. I'm fortunate because I've come up with a group of comics over the years that I've really related to, and we've kind of grown together. And but but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. And then the other side of it is when you're going on the road, um, is your marketing and how you present yourself. And then the other side of it is how you're going to position your social media and getting your clips together and coming up with new ideas. And a lot of times I'll do impression videos on there with like, I'll pick a topic and I'll just do the same topic, but different voices and different people. Or then I'll come across and I'll pick out certain reels that I think are gonna hit, and I'm putting out shows and that people can check out. But I've cut back on like doing the LA shows like 5 days a week. I have a 9-month-old, and so it's a little bit of a challenge. Also, I'm a little bit more selective right now in terms of like what shows are going to be the most get the most value out of, and because you don't have to take just there's a theory that you should take every single show, but at the same time, like that's also not truly sustainable. You have to look at the show, think about, um, is this going to be a show that's going to um, be helpful in my growth as a comedian? And
Right.
that's how you have to look at it. So, I mean, that's kind of the gist. So my days are just evolving and changing all the time. There's not like just one set, day, and then how I do it, because it's nuts. And then the other times it's like I'm on dad duty, man. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's interesting. Yeah, I won't. The only shows I won't do now are like bringer shows. People are like you have to bring 5 people or sell this many tickets.
Yeah.
Or it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't want to. I'm not. I don't want to do that. Like,
No, hey,
you know,
most of the time in those bringer shows too, a lot of, when you're starting out, a lot of comics think like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do the store, I'll do a bringer show, or I'm going to do, but at the end of the day, some of those bookers that put you on at the store, or the biggest clubs that you can think of, you're like, "Oh, this is amazing," but really, they don't really care so much about your talent. They just care about how many people you can bring. And then most of the time, there's no one really going to be in the audience. But it is a great opportunity in that regard to start out and do those bringer shows.
it can be okay. They can be okay, and I would say don't get stuck in that trap. If you guys haven't watched, if you haven't read Paul Moonjean's newsletter, he used to run Flappers University of Flappers. If you haven't signed up for that, you should go check that out. But he wrote a whole thing about the LA comedy scene this week that I was like, woo,
I just
woo.
read it. And in fact, I signed up for his newsletter because I thought it was fantastic,
He
actually.
burned it down, you guys. It was
Yeah.
amazing. I was like, woo. And I texted him. I said, "This is a great review." And I'm like, and I know that you toned it back. Like I know that you had to tone it back because my immediate thought was like, I would have wrote way meaner stuff than what you wrote.
I
But
I mean, hey, if that was turning it back, that is a very nice guy then. So,
He did. He rolled it back. He did tell me that he rolled it back a little bit, and I was like, "Whoo! I would have loved to see that first draft. That was just like
no, but it's great. He
like,
really gives you an introspective into the rawness and the realness of the LA comedy scene.
yeah,
And that, so for any aspiring comics, or check that newsletter out, because there's some things in there that when I was starting out, I wish I knew. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the sad part is he couldn't keep all the ones from Flappers. Because Flappers owns them. But I
Right.
really wish he would have taken it and I'm hoping that he'll take those and just rewrite them or whatever in
Yeah.
his way,
Yeah.
and then put them, make a book or something, or blogs or whatever. I think it's worthwhile. But that's a hard part of LA. Now, being in LA, you say you were going out 5 days a week. What does that mean? Going to mics, going shows, or just shows only, or mics only? Like, what was your process for the 5 days a week thing you were doing?
Oh,
Going out to,
I wasn't doing, no, the just public shows. Yeah, not mics
okay,
that
yeah.
that I was doing. I used to do a lot of mics, but I don't. It's getting tougher and tougher to get to do some of those mics now. My
They're so
schedule. So.
they're so rough. All right. Well, now this is the big question I ask everybody, because I think it's an important question, and it's kind of like a good focus for you. Like, if you could go back in time to when you started stand up, with all the information and knowledge that you have now, you could go back to your younger self and give them one piece of advice. What one piece of advice would you go back and give yourself?
Great question. I
It's
would,
my favorite question. Like, I love
yeah,
asking this question.
I would say, um, think about how you're going to run this, from a business perspective. Like, think about how you're not just going to, like, most of the times we just dive in and we just go for it, right? But if I could take my advice, I would, we don't do enough to educate newer comics about the business side of comedy, and how to potentially make some money doing it. So there needs to be more of that. So if I could go back, I would teach myself some of the things that I've learned along the way, and to not get taken advantage of by some of the bookers out there, because there's amazing bookers and there's some really crappy bookers.
So, what would those business, like, maybe one or two pieces of business advice that you would be giving yourself if you were going back? You're saying, hey, these are the things that I would X, Y, and Z do, or this is what I would do for my younger self. I'd say, hey, younger self, do this or do this or do this to set yourself up. Like, what would you
I would
say?
say when you feel that you have a good 20 minutes, and you're ready to go, or even 15, and you feel prepared, uh, go and bet on yourself, and book yourself. Like like produce your own show. Um, Reach out to smaller venues in smaller towns that need entertainment, and tell them you're available, and then book yourself on the show, and then bring 2 other comics with you. Uh, you don't have to, just like I said before, like, to get on the road, you get a headline, but there's other ways to do it, because a lot of the small towns outside of, even in California, there's a lot of smaller areas that are dying for entertainment, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at a comedy club. You could do it at a brewery, you could do it at a restaurant, wherever. But those the and strategize. Really think about, like, how am I going to grow myself as a comic, because you can really drain yourself doing a million Los Angeles shows, back to back to back. Not all of us are Cal Ripken with the consecutive game streak. You know what I mean? So, we have, I can tell you, there was a period of time not too long ago where my health was started getting affected. You know what I mean? Because I was doing, I'm a new dad. I'm running out. I'm doing shows. My wife and I were, so we're both carrying a load together. And so that's another thing. Take care of yourself. You know what I mean? Watch your without your health, you don't have anything. So bet on yourself and take care of yourself, man. That's what I would
Love
tell
it.
you.
I love it. Those are great ones. All right. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for being on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Put all Jason's stuff in there. Go check out his Instagram. Go be like 18,000 and whatever. Go keep adding to that. That's amazing, man. I'm gonna pick your brain about that later. We'll probably have like a little text chain or something or whatever. We'll talk about it. But like, that is just so. That's just so awesome. That's the thing I suck at. I suck at social media. I abhor it. I don't like it. So I think in reality, I just go. I'm just gonna post a clip here and there. I'm never consistent. It's not my thing. It's not what I love, and it's not what I like doing. On Twitter, like I liked Twitter back in the day, not Twitter now, but I liked Twitter back in the day. I would just write stuff during the day that I thought was funny or try different things and just put it out there. I don't like Threads. I think Threads is terrible, and I don't like new Twitter. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll try to be more consistent. I'll do something, or maybe I'll pick your brain or talk to your brother.
Dude, well, let's collab, man. Let's make some stuff happen. So there you go.
You got it. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe. And if you have not checked out the Funny Money podcast, go to the Substack. I'll put the Substack link in here. Go to the Funny Money podcast. It is $5 a month, but you're getting all the stuff that I do for my writing career. So I made over 6 figures as a comedy writer outside of the traditional circle. So not WGA, not any of those things, not published books, whatever. As a ghostwriter, freelance comedy writer, all that stuff. I just booked 3 gigs today. Today, you guys, 3. And I'm not special. I'm not like the smartest dude in the world. So go check it out. $5 a month. $5 a month or $50 for the year. And you're getting 4 podcasts every month. And you're getting at least 4 posts every month. I'm about to drop a new post. You'll read the first like 2, and then it's going to be 5 places to go look for new freelance comedy writing gigs. And you'll get the first 2, but the last 3, which are the gold mines, you're gonna that nobody's digging on. You're gonna go there and get that, but you got to pay $5 a month to get all that information. So there'll be a lot of free stuff and a lot of subscriber only stuff. So go check it out. And thanks for supporting the Clean Comedy Podcast. Please keep coming listening. Please go share this with other people. Tell them about it. And thank you so much. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.